appointed the fire chief too, right?
Yeah, where is he? He works for you. Let's get him here. I actually put that on TV now. Well, we'll wait till he gets here, but let's start the meeting. I move we approve the minutes, which were nicely sent out almost immediately after the meeting. She's really...
Second.
I don't know if we can take that. All in favor? Aye, aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Hey.
If I say no...
I needed to think about it a minute.
Well, you
Don't
wrote
rush
them.
there.
Do you have anything to say, Karen, other than what's on the agenda?
Hi, Sarah.
No, here, sit.
So, are you here for...
He's here for the after meeting.
I'm here for after.
We can't have
After
that
school
meeting if
program?
there's 5 of us.
I know, but it's only 4 of us right now, so that's what I said.
You know, the after-school program?
Dan may not make it.
Nice.
Okay, public speak. Are you a public? Would you like
I
to
am
speak?
public. I don't know what are we talking about.
Anything you want. This is your floor.
No, it's okay. Thank you for.
So let's jump
volunteering.
over the fire department. Did she give you a copy of these, Joe? The stipends?
Yes.
I'm jumping to the stipends because all I'm gonna say to you is to study these for our next meeting. If you look at the top, the dark number, 16,650, that's the population of the community, to give you a sense of, but these are only cities. Salem, we're talking, you could probably get a copy of these are from Barbara. We're talking about stipends for,
A COL for the city council.
council gets
Well,
11,000.
Agawam was usually our,
So, wait,
Similar
hold on.
cities,
Okay,
yeah.
so.
That's the population of the community of Amesbury.
Okay, this next one
And
is
all we're getting,
Gardner.
just so you know, she
Got
didn't
it.
send towns, it's because we're looking at city council, city
Yep.
mayor, and that kind of, which I think is appropriate if we're looking at.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like they go from small population to largest. We must have the smallest population in the city.
Oh, this is Northampton right here.
Well, Boston at the end,
Agawam?
yeah, I thought Agawam was our kind of our similar population city.
is it in here?
No.
She doesn't have it in here?
Maybe it's, is Agawam a town? No, Agawam's gotta be a city.
No, Agawam's a city, but I'm not sure, she didn't get everybody, obviously. Oh wait, there's some on the back
Yeah, they're
of each one.
double-sided.
They're double-sided.
Fall River, Somerville.
Those are
We don't
big.
have Agawam here?
Yeah. Wait,
Where's Agawam?
Agawam is the last one, I think.
I was gonna say,
No,
that,
that's
yeah.
Boston.
She doesn't have that in there, I'm surprised.
Oh, I don't have it. I don't- Oh,
Worcester.
Agawam has 7 blocks.
you need this.
Oh.
Yeah, but we have them.
And she doesn't have the stipends for some of them. Oh, no, it's up at the top, okay.
This is Worcester, okay.
16,000 for...
She did send it to Agawam though. They may not have responded. Her
Oh, okay.
distribution list shows.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. All right, well, she might have more than for us. Anyway, study these for the next meeting.
Okay.
Is Dave coming?
It'll be a quiz.
Kevin,
Dave
is he
Monaco?
coming? What do you want to do with the Hayden Animal Trust Fund? You want me to remove that, Karen?
Oh, he thought it was at 6.
Let's put it towards the parking
Here,
garage.
the Hayden, this is
Yeah.
You got the document that you wanted
This
to?
is all we did was clean up the language, and
That's
the
all I
only
asked.
extra change after you saw it was, we don't have, town reports anymore.
Yeah.
So, give everybody one.
Okay, then I think we
Here you
should
go.
just,
And, yep, you, and so that's all it is, so I thought you might wanna review it. It's just cleaning up the language, getting rid of Board of
the
Selectmen. and-
word City of East Hampton
and-
of Town of East Hampton.
and
is
town
there?
meeting, and just little things like that. So this, the draft was done by Jack. The only changes that we made to it was to get rid of, we no longer do, town reports. So I took that, I just kinda took that off there, and that's it. So I
No,
actually did.
Fine, this is done, then I don't
I
need
did,
it.
just so that, you know, I did talk to Dr. Hayden, I actually emailed him a copy, you know, just so he would see it. Did he have, I mean, seeing how it was him that set up the original trust, and do you have any problems with it? And he said, no, I'm happy that we have it, and to update it, do whatever you know.
And this is for any animal. The other
Yes,
one is for
that's
dogs
the
only.
difference, exactly, and that's, it
We
just
originally thought
became
we could
easier.
put the two of them together, but
Right.
we can't because they want that specifically.
And he did note that we upped it to the 100 instead of 50.
Was it changed? Remember, it used to be principal only?
This one
Okay,
is a
just-
trust. So this one is principal, this one you can only use the interest only, you know? So that's the difference between this, which are the two reasons we didn't put the kennel money into this. One, because this is a trust and this is, you know, this is animals. Where the other one, they requested just dogs. And the other thing is, they wanted to be able to use the whole 4,000 and not just the interest, because obviously interest on 4,000 isn't very much.
Right, okay.
What's in this trust fund now? Is there much?
Right now, I believe it has 6,000. 1,000 is usable of it, because you can't use.
1,000 is interest that has accumulated over the
Exactly.
year.
$1,147 is the usable amount.
Probably around 5:30.
And I can get you an updated, just in case there's been any interest in. Wow.
Okay, then I'll move that we accept this new language for the Hayden Animal Trust Fund to be sent to the council for final approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Would you mind emailing this to Barbara so she can get it out with the
Of
next
course.
package?
Of course. And I also figured that I'll put some type of cover sheet, signature sheet, something else on it so that it'll be ready for
Right,
the
because
counselors
by a
for your
vote
next
taken,
meeting.
we have to vote on it
Yep.
because it's a trust.
Right,
Okay.
and I'm sure that, you know, I'll add a signature, I'm sure that needs a signature page.
Okay, so, Chief, sorry, we are meeting at 5 anymore? Because a lot of us.
I had to be here for 5:30 anyway.
So, I am requesting $183,000 supplemental funding so I can go to Tahiti.
Was it something we
Wait.
said?
Yeah. Can I get you amended for that?
Are you, all right, you don't need to be here, Joe?
Yeah, I saw you right there, I was trying to believe it, you know?
Okay, so David,
Sure,
you got injuries and this is coming out of free cash, huh? Okay,
there was, from July until February, we had 4 long-term injured on duty injuries and illnesses. Those 4 injuries alone caused over $63,000 in overtime. Part of the problem was we had retirement, we had vacancies, and as always, dealing with that lovely state agency that's called Civil Service, it's about 8 weeks turnaround from the time I request a list till I actually have a body in this position.
so it takes 8 weeks to fill an empty spot,
Right.
and during that 8 weeks, we gotta call in overtime.
And then they have to complete a pre-employment physical, they have to go pass a physical agility test, so that always adds 2 more weeks to the end
So
of the process.
8 to 10 weeks.
So just the civil service delay in filling 2 firefighter vacancies. And this time, I would say it was closer to 18 weeks. Probably accounts for, I roughed it out today, about 45,000 additional in overtime in the delay in filling those vacancies created due to retirements.
So 63K because of injuries
Yeah.
and 45K because of retirement and vacancies. And it's just regular overtime that you can't because of calls, depending on how many calls.
These are shift vacancies. These don't have anything to do with
Yeah, but
how busy.
that adds up to 107,000, so the rest of it, I'm assuming, is because you have,
So
A need.
when I build just to give you where I come up, this year's funded amount was 185,000.
mhm.
The fixed overtime estimate I had this year was 124,000. And that's filling shift vacancies due to vacation days, personal days. I don't factor in sick leave because I think our sick leave average is less than 3 shifts per year, per person.
But you
So
didn't expect these injuries.
I didn't expect, and we had
Long-term illnesses.
extended family medical leave.
Mm.
So I figured out for FY16, my fixed overtime was about 124,000. And the extra 60 and change was to hopefully cover incidentals.
So the mayor approved 185,000 in the budget.
In this current year's budget, yes.
So this means that what we ended up needing was, my math is correct,
And I didn't bring the numbers. I think for FY15.
360 $368,000 in overtime.
And for FY '15, I wanna say I was just under 300,000.
I mean, if we gave you $368,000 in your budget every year, you could hire 5 more firefighters.
Well, this is what he's telling you.
Yeah.
What he's telling you is that is preventing the overtime, because we have, when you have somebody injured on duty.
Right.
They have a spot.
Right.
So now that they no longer, retired, now we have somebody filling that spot, but you have to fill the spot no matter whether they're getting paid for a
Yeah.
spot, but we also have to fill the spot, which is the extra overtime. Now the person is retired, and, and now the spot is being filled by, putting in the 2 new people on.
It's too bad that we have to spend this kind of money, which is a one-time expenditure, because it's not an ongoing person. So if I understand you correctly, the 4 who were out injured, are they back? Or were some of them the retired?
One was a retirement, and the other 3 are back to work.
3 are back to work, so you're trying to fill how many vacancies now?
Right now, I have none. Well, there's no funded vacancies right now.
The retiree is not funded,
Yes.
Yes, he was
Yes, it
replaced.
is.
but he has been replaced. We did
Yes.
that already.
Yes.
Okay,
What we
cool.
actually did with him, the mayor allowed me to fill a position that exists but hasn't been funded since 2004.
Mm.
So with the retirement process, it normally takes 60 days from the time a member signs it till it gets approved.
Mhm.
So January 1st, I anticipated and put it in November. The mayor authorized me to hire a position that wasn't funded.
So a
But it's
position
not to go-
existed on the books which allows you to hire someone, even though it's not funded, you anticipated the retirement to be able to fund it
Right.
during this
That's
fiscal
right.
year.
So we went
Makes
2
sense.
months
Makes
of this
sense.
firefighter working while his replacement was still out injured, waiting for his retirement paper to come in. Just to
Get
give you an
it in.
idea, when I gave the mayor her Thanksgiving present, I estimated the original deficit to be over 250,000.
And I told him to estimate again.
So the first 26 weeks of FY16.
You made a new plan after that.
The average overtime cost was 14,000 a pay period. So every 2 weeks, it was actually 14,646. The
So-
10 weeks that we are in this year, that average has dropped to 7,433.
So 368 grand is what we've spent, well, assuming we don't have another overtime request for this fiscal year. Wow. Okay, but that's not good, but this is totally unusual. We haven't had these problems
No,
before.
I don't have the
Hey,
numbers,
Dan.
but I want to say FY15 was just under 300,000 spent in overtime.
FY15 was 300,000?
Yeah, we're just under it, like 290 something.
And that was also, as I recall, we had injuries there too.
They keep breaking.
You gotta stop
So-
breaking your firefighters.
When you replaced the person who retired with the opening from 2004, did you replace them at a lower pay grade?
Yes, they
It
come in.
saves
They come
money
in.
there.
Lower step, they don't get their education incentive until they've been there a year. So there's
Saving a little
savings
bit.
that I'll see. The worst case scenario is the overtime deficit will be more than 183,000. But I'm gonna see savings in the base salary line that I can.
Because you've got a rookie coming in or
Right.
something.
Okay.
And what makes it very difficult is when you have somebody, injured on duty, you pay their full salary, the city pays their full salary, in their regular salary
the
line,
overtime.
but they're not there. So we also pay somebody to cover those, to cover their spot. So that's
Okay.
why we put somebody on overtime to anticipate that.
And do we have to pay any premium for the illnesses on duty?
Yeah, we pay,
It's the
what's our deductible?
50.
5,000 for deductible?
No,
For IoT?
he just told us, no, it's not. He just told us that's what you thought it was, but it wasn't. It was double that. Remember?
Yeah,
We
we
just
don't,
heard from Paul.
rarely do we hit the deductible
Right.
on our workman's comp policy. So
So that's out of
that
pocket?
comes out of expense. The medical costs come out of my budget. And I can only think of, in 22 years, I can only think of 2 people that ever hit it.
So we have a pretty good track record, which is why our premiums stay down.
Well, workman's comp rates, reimbursement rates are so much lower to the medical practitioner than regular rates.
Right, because they rate them, you don't pay them based
Right.
on,
It's just-
exactly, yep, you send them to be rated through workers' comp rates.
So when we budget for illnesses and injuries and all that,
In his
to cover
medical
the-
lines, in his expense
to
lines.
cover the deductibles?
That's in his expense lines, that's correct.
Okay.
And obviously, this is his overtime line, which you can see
Is as
how
a
they
result
can
of
easily
that.
double
Yeah.
when you are paying somebody and then paying somebody again.
So if we've been paying, this is me being curious here. We've been paying overtime above 200,000, this year 368 with this appropriation. For how many years have we been doing it? We've been doing that a lot. I mean, I remember you coming here since 2004. If we hired 2 more people, would we have less overtime? I'm serious. I mean,
Well,
why are we?
We're
discussed
working,
it.
we're
We've
putting in
discussed
for
that.
a federal assistance to firefighters
It's
grant
the other part of this.
to get 1 firefighter to restore all 4 shifts to 6 firefighters. We have a minimum of 5. Right now, that 4th
What's your minimum
shift-
manning is 5, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So with that 4th shift only being staffed at 5 firefighters,
Mhm.
every time somebody takes a vacation day, it causes
Your
overtime.
overtime.
The other 3 shifts don't work that way.
My point, Karen, is if
Right.
you're budgeting that
Right,
much
we're
money.
already, this is already a
I
discussion.
mean,
Yep.
I would wonder why we don't just hire 2
Which is
people.
why I told him to go ahead and get this person in ahead of time, because it's no longer, it was no longer working for us to not have somebody in there. But again, this issue was caused by injuries.
Yeah.
So it's different, you know?
I understand that, but I'm just looking at the track record.
Yep.
Since 2004, we've been very high. If we get 1 or 2 more firefighters, it would seem to me that's a better investment. We have that much more manpower. We're not paying overtime. You can cover a shift if someone's on vacation or suddenly ill or something.
Yeah, I mean-
Because if you have 5-man minimum, you have to bring somebody in. That's union contract, so you understand this.
They,
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure you understood that.
depending on where the number.
I didn't know if you do.
That's good.
The related costs are,
Mhm.
years past, it's been cheaper to pay overtime than hire firefighters.
Really?
Because you factor in retirement.
I'm always looking at a 50,000. How much?
Yeah,
how
what
much
is a fully loaded
How much does
person?
a fireman cost? Is it 50,000 with, I'm talking about benefits and everything?
Yeah, it's fully
It's hard to
loaded.
decide.
Grant, we just did
Track
that for the
that.
grant. I wanna
Hi,
say,
everybody.
year 1 is
Bye, Salem.
55 to hire, but if you take that same position and pay time and a half, it's probably only like 48.
Well, all right. So my point is only
Yeah, here's your numbers.
that we're spending so much on overtime, I'd rather see us invest in a firefighter if we're gonna spend the money anyway. I'm just putting that on the record. I mean,
So in
that's up to
14
Karen and you guys, but still.
In 2004, FY 14, 262,000.
There you go.
In FY 15, 294,000.
And this year, Joe, just to catch you up, and Dan, this 183 is on top of the 185 that was already budgeted for the year for overtime. So that's $368,000 in this fiscal year that the fire department's putting on overtime, which is why I'm bringing up, we should think about hiring an extra person. Why
And I'm
not?
sure I
We're
can
gonna
tell you
spend
by-
it every year.
By Christmas, it was to the point where, at the end of a 24-hour shift, there was people not going home because
And I
nobody
don't
wanted
like
to work
that.
overtime. Well, they can't work more than 36 straight, so,
By law?
no, by policy. As part of the agreement with them getting 24-hour shifts, nobody works more than 36 straight hours. So there would be somebody not go home in the morning, but the same token, there was somebody ordered back in at 5:30 at night because they were so sick of working.
Can't imagine working 36 hours without sleep. I just can't imagine that, but, okay. We have these arguments all the time.
But, so anyway, the reason this came to you now, instead of when he was talking about originally, is because of the ways we were able to cut it back. Number 1 was putting something on, number 2 is applying for another firefighter. So we're already on this, but we didn't want to come to the counselors for a transfer without a plan.
Mhm.
So that's the plan. So once something blows out of the
Good plan.
water like that, the first thing we think of is what's more economical, you know, overtime versus people. But at the same point in time, injuries, you know,
They're-
you
you can't
can't
predict them.
account for injuries. So when you're paying somebody, you know, their full-time salary to not be there because they're injured on duty, you also have to pay somebody
else, yeah.
an overtime to cover the shift, which is how that is.
What he said, Dan, so to catch it up, from July to February, he had 4 guys out, 4 firemen out on long-term illness or injuries, which created this huge overtime cost. Because they have to have 5 people on a shift by contract. So if you're down to 4, you have to bring somebody.
July to February, right, Chief?
That's what you told me, right? July to February.
Yeah, July to
That's what I-
February was $63,729.
Right.
Just for that
For
period.
4 injuries.
And then we have retirements and everything else.
So, Mayor, Chief, will you,
Can
when
I
you
ask-
get to a place where you may or may...
Upstairs.
No.
Upstairs.
School building?
Oh, okay.
Upstairs.
Okay.
When you get to a place where you'll want the council to review that, are you gonna provide us with, here's how it would look if it was all strict overtime, here's how it would look if we brought in a body, and if you pro forma how many injuries you might expect to have and all? Are we
Hopefully
gonna be able to
none.
look at that kind of data? I mean, you
No,
have to
what we
factor
do,
in
what we
injuries.
do, so what we
Will
do,
happen.
so what's in front of you is a transfer to cover his overtime.
Right.
Deficit.
Yeah.
That's what's in front of you. But what we have done before we did that
Just
is
crunch the other stuff.
we have, right, we've already acted on it, bringing somebody in before that retirement actually happened. So, in other words, like, so the issue now, he had 4 injuries. As of now, 3 are back to work, 1 retired, and that retiree has been replaced. So,
So overtime
So we
should be a
figured we
lot
would come to
less
you
now than it has been.
with the solution, that is how we resolve this issue.
And that's why you opened up that 2004 position.
Exactly,
Got it.
exactly, but what we're also doing is looking at putting in that's the federal program, right, Chief? For a firefighter through the,
Okay.
through the federal program.
Now,
There was one with the state, and that dissolved.
Yeah, that only lasted 2 years.
We had that, right, but we were also, you know, proceeding with that, and
Does the
that.
federal
that-
program fund it fully, or just?
For 1
2
year?
years.
How many?
2 years.
2 years.
Fully.
Okay.
It
And
used
then
to
we
be-
would take it on?
What's
If
that?
we chose?
Then we would take it on?
Yes, that's
We
how
can
they
take
work.
it on, or we can
Or
lose
you-
the position to
right.
attrition.
Right.
Before, it was a 5-year cycle. 3 years, the feds paid you 100%.
Mhm.
You had to own that employee for 2 years on your own, and then the 6th year, you could eliminate the position. Now it's 2 years, 100%, and you can lose the position through attrition.
But-
You just can't lay anybody off.
Yeah, you can't lay them off.
All right,
Okay.
if you do the federal program.
Right.
If we don't get the federal program, just to bring it up, why not we just hire someone? I mean, looking at the retirement, the overtime we're spending.
That will be reviewed in our budget.
Okay.
That's being
I'm
reviewed
only
in
bringing
our
it up
budget
because
discussions with the chief.
Overtime to me
Right,
is
separate.
a waste. It's too bad
Yeah.
that we have to do it. I know you have to do it. We have to keep the city safe, but it's too bad.
Right.
$368,000 is too bad.
And you can explain to them too, it's a separate issue altogether, that's will be a fiscal 17 budget issue, those are
Right,
the
yeah.
budget meetings we've been having with the chief.
Mhm.
But you can also explain how you can't just have somebody on call to cover these shifts.
Yeah,
You know, you can't just hire an extra person and they can cover all these little overtimes.
Yeah, if we use our call force, we just replenish that.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I went from 6, I'm back down to 4 already through hiring, but,
They don't get paid overtime. They're just
so they
somebody.
get a whopping $15 an hour to come out and save your life.
But, go ahead.
So,
Okay.
the problem is, it takes almost 6 to 8 months to get the new call firefighters trained where they can come in and work a shift.
They
Once
could-
they're trained, it's great, because instead of paying $40-something an hour in overtime, I'm paying them $15 an hour to do the same job.
And are they?
But, go ahead.
So, those guys were hired in October,
Mhm.
so they're almost done with their in-house training where they can start covering shifts.
If
It's
they-
our plan.
Okay, I understand that. So if they start covering shifts, and if you decide to make the position a permanent position, these people have to go through civil service to get?
They are
Our
civil
call- Our call
service.
force is civil service.
That's
So-
who we hire through.
So they're already on civil service, so if you want to hire one of these individuals, you've got them ready to go,
Yeah.
if you want to make them permanent.
Which is what we just did.
But it's still,
Excellent.
still have to wait because there's a layoff list.
Right.
Really? Okay.
Is it still fall room?
So it still comes, the layoff list comes.
Nothing is easy in
They
your
get
department.
10 days to come sign a list, so I have to wait 10 days for some guy from Fall River who's been unemployed since 2010 to decide, and they don't even have to call me, so I have to wait the entire 10 days. And then it's just as easy as paperwork to change the status of when they call me. But state law requires, being civil service, you have to wait 10 days for those firefighters that have been laid off from Fall River and New Bedford, which do it every year, to come sign, which just adds up to our cost.
Well, I'm very happy. Personally, I think the plan is excellent. I mean, you did what you had to do.
Mhm.
I like that you're looking in for, to add a position rather than pay out overtime. Let's hope this doesn't get this bad again.
So back to this, we didn't come to you with a problem, we came to you
With a
with a
solution.
request and a solution.
Yep.
Good. Do you, other counselors? Danny, you caught up to speed?
Yep.
Why he's asking for this? Any other questions, counselors? Take a motion to approve them? Say second. A motion is in a second to approve the supplemental appropriation. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this will be, I didn't put it on the public hearing agenda, so it'll be 2 weeks, it'll be,
April 6th.
no, it'll be the next meeting after that, because I didn't ask for a public hearing for April 6th. I could have, I don't know, how serious is this?
I've got time.
No,
Well, I
we're good.
can't now.
Yeah, we're-
I have to have a
we're good.
vote of the council to do it, so we have to wait till the second meeting in April.
Okay,
before
so
you-
that's the April 20? So the counselors meet April 6th and April 20?
Yeah, we will put it on the agenda as a public hearing for April 20. Okay? Karen, just to streamline things, this is just a thought. If you and Melissa have something that you give it to me for one council meeting and you
Right.
could react, I could put it on the public hearing agenda that night because I've been told, let's get this.
Right.
That's a 4-week
You-
timeline otherwise, so I'm trying to help out if you.
You've
if
been
you
very
need it.
gracious on that, and, you know, and if we thought it was that urgent, we would have asked you, but you've been extremely helpful on that. You did that toward the end of last fiscal year, you know, we kind of bombarded you.
And I know we could, we might get some of those right before the budget. Before we close the meeting, we reviewed the stipends, just so you know.
Yeah.
We got the, did he get a copy of this? Hey,
Did
Daniel
it-
Trust Fund
do you
language?
have, do you have that, Dan?
Yeah, it's right in front
Updated
of
from a couple
Here.
weeks ago.
Here it is.
That's it.
Oh, the
No,
deed.
that- All right, we approved this language, Dan. We voted to approve that language. And these are examples that Barbara started collecting of cities only of stipends. We're gonna review them at the next meeting,
Is this
Yeah,
yours?
perfect.
okay?
We're gonna have
So, the mayor, Peg wanted to know what you thought we would get the budget.
Well, we usually shoot
What he
for
said.
the second meeting in April is what we usually shoot for, but we'll let you know. That's
Okay.
usually your second meeting in April, which I always in my head estimate April 15th, but
It'll
well,
be the
we just
20th.
said April, whatever we
20th.
say, but that's what we'll shoot for, but
And when do we
I
have
will-
to have it approved?
You usually, the
July-
counselors
July
usually, if you
1st.
approve it at their first meeting in June, and hopefully don't have to have
We'll
another
have
meeting in
May
June.
meetings, we'll have a bunch of them, like back-to-back, to go over every one. April
20.
13th is our next meeting. We're not having a meeting next week because there's nothing on the agenda and the other problem is I'm not available. I mean, I don't think we need to rush into the stipends, which is the only thing that's on our agenda right now. So we'll have the next meeting on April 13th,
Okay.
okay?
So the
At
next
that
meeting will be
meeting-
April 13th?
At that meeting, I'd like to set, if you can think about asking department heads, budget hearing meetings, even though we might not have the budget yet, and the reason for that is, I'm having surgery and I won't be available on the 27th,
Of
April,
April.
to discuss things, so I'd like to do long-term May meetings, with my foot being redone, so. And I
And I will-
probably, I'll be available to go on my crutches, the
Okay, and
council in the
just-
4th,
just-
so the first couple of weeks in May.
Just an FYI, I will not be here the second full week of May. So, and normally the counselors normally have done them, Dan, like three nights, so anything.
Well, let's be prepared to talk about it, what sections you wanna do on the 13th, if we could.
Yep, anything for me except that second week in May.
Well, we need you here, so let's figure it out. Okay, Move adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Thanks there.